7 years of marriage. I gave everything to her family, sacrificed more than most men ever would. Thought we had it all figured out. Then one Tuesday night, I stayed late at the office and saw something through a half-open door that shattered my world. I didn't make a scene. What I did next was so much worse. My name is Travis Reynolds. I'm 43 years old, and 2 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Good job as a supply chain manager at TechFlow Industries in Indianapolis. Steady paycheck, decent benefits. I'd worked there 11 years, climbed from inventory control all the way up to managing the Midwest supply chain operations. I met Jennifer Walsh at a company mixer 8 years back. She was 30, recently divorced, working as an administrative coordinator in the executive offices. Blonde, sharp green eyes, smile that could warm you up or cut you down depending on the day. She had a 9-year-old son, Brandon, from her first marriage. The ex had bailed to California years before, sent child support, but nothing else. We started as friends. Coffee in the break room, casual conversations about work and life. 6 months later, we were dating. A year after that, I proposed at a vineyard outside the city. She said yes, and I thought I'd finally gotten it right. Brandon was 11 when we got married. Quiet kid, always on his phone or gaming. I tried with him, showed up to basketball games, helped with homework, taught him practical stuff like changing tires and checking oil. But there was always a wall between us. He was polite enough, never disrespectful, just distant. Like I was a roommate he tolerated instead of a stepfather he accepted. Jennifer would make excuses. He's been through a lot, she'd say. Give him time. So I gave him time. 7 years of it. The wall never came down. Jennifer and I fell into a rhythm. We both worked at TechFlow, though in different buildings. I was in operations. She worked in corporate about a quarter-mile away. We'd carpool sometimes, meet for lunch, talk about our days over dinner. From the outside, probably looked like we had it together. 2 years ago, Jennifer got promoted to executive assistant for Stephen Carter, the VP of operations. He was one of those corporate types, expensive suits, always talking about synergy and paradigm shifts. Been with the company over 20 years. Jennifer said the job was demanding, that Stephen expected a lot. I believed her. That's the thing about trust. Once you give it, really give it, you don't go looking for reasons to take it back. You assume the person you love is who they say they are. The late nights started creeping in. The way she'd angle her phone away when texting. The distance in her eyes when I'd reach for her hand. I told myself it was work stress, that she was adjusting to the new position. I was wrong. And by the time I figured it out, everything I thought I knew was already gone. It happened on a Tuesday in late April. I remember because we just finished the quarterly inventory audit, and I was wrapping up the reports. The office was mostly empty by 6 o'clock. Just a few stragglers finishing up their work, the cleaning crew starting their rounds. Jennifer had texted me around 5, saying she'd be working late with Stephen on a presentation for the board meeting. Nothing unusual. She'd been doing that more often lately. I told her I'd probably stay late too, knock out some paperwork while the office was quiet. By 7:30, I was done. Saved the files, shut down my computer, stretched my back. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead in that way that makes everything feel slightly off after hours. I grabbed my jacket and headed toward the exit. That's when I passed Stephen Carter's office. The door was closed, but the blinds were tilted just enough that you could see through the gaps if you were walking by at the right angle. And I was at exactly the right angle. Jennifer was perched on the edge of his desk, legs crossed, laughing at something. His hand rested on her knee. Her hand touched his shoulder. They were close, too close, the kind of close that doesn't happen between a boss and his assistant unless something else is going on. Then she leaned in and kissed him. Not a quick peck, not something you could explain away. A real kiss. The kind that made my stomach drop through the floor. He kissed her back, his hand sliding from her knee to her waist. Her fingers moved to his collar, casual and familiar like she'd done 100 times before. I stood there frozen. My pulse hammered in my ears. My breath caught somewhere between my lungs and my throat. Part of me wanted to kick that door open, flip his desk, make him answer for what he was doing. But I didn't move. Instead, I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Just one. The angle was clear enough. Her face lit by the glow of his computer monitor, his eyes closed, her hand on his chest. No room for misinterpretation. I backed away slowly, quiet as I could. Walked back to my desk like I was on autopilot. Sat down. Stared at the screen without seeing anything. The picture of Jennifer and me from our anniversary sat in its frame beside my keyboard. She was wearing that red scarf she loved. I was grinning like I'd won the lottery. Now that smile felt like the punchline to a joke I didn't get. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't make a scene. Just grabbed my things, stuffed that picture frame into my bag, and walked out. The elevator doors closed behind me, and it felt like they were sealing off a chapter of my life I hadn't planned on ending. Outside, the parking lot was quiet. I made it to my truck, slid behind the wheel, and just sat there gripping the steering wheel with both hands. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked like someone I didn't recognize. By the time I started the engine, my mind was clear. I wasn't confused. I'd seen what I saw. There wasn't any mystery left. Just a decision. I'm not staying. I didn't go home right away. I drove to Ryan's apartment on the east side of town. Ryan Foster had been my best friend since college. The kind of guy who knew when to talk and when to just hand you a beer and shut up. He opened the door at almost 10 o'clock, took one look at my face, and stepped aside without a word. Grabbed 2 bottles from his fridge and sat down across from me in his worn-out recliner. "You look like hell," Ryan said, his voice even and calm. "Jennifer's been cheating on me," I said. The words came out flat, emotionless. "With Stephen Carter. I saw them tonight in his office." Ryan didn't flinch, didn't act surprised. He just nodded slowly, took a drink, and leaned back. "You sure?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo. He studied it for a long moment, then handed the phone back. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "Leave," I said. "Tonight. I'm not going back to that house. You need a place to crash. You got one here," Ryan said without hesitation. "Stay as long as you need." I spent the night on his couch, barely slept, just stared at the ceiling, replaying everything. The late nights, the distance, the way she'd look right through me, sometimes like I wasn't even there. All the pieces I'd ignored because I wanted to believe we were fine. By morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. I wasn't going to yell, wasn't going to beg for answers. I was going to walk away clean and let the consequences land where they belonged. Around noon, I drove back to the house. Jennifer's car was gone. Good. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear whatever story she'd spin. I went inside, grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, important documents. I moved through the rooms methodically, taking only what was mine. There was a photo on the dresser from a trip we took to Lake Michigan 2 years ago. Jennifer was wearing sunglasses and smiling. I was standing beside her looking happy. I picked it up, stared at it for a second, then set it face down. In the kitchen, I opened a drawer where we kept notepads and pens. I wrote one sentence on a piece of paper. "Don't contact me." I didn't sign it. Didn't write her name. Just left the note on the kitchen table beside my wedding ring. I'd already taken the ring off in the truck the night before. It sat there now, a small circle of gold that didn't mean anything anymore. I stood there for a moment, hands resting on the table edge, looking around at the life we'd built. Her jacket on the chair, the grocery list on the fridge, the coffee maker we bought together 3 years ago. None of it felt like mine anymore. I picked up my bag, walked out the front door, and didn't look back. I called William Cross first thing the next morning. He was a divorce attorney I'd heard about through a buddy at work who'd gone through a split a few years back. His office was downtown, small but professional. When I told him I needed to file for divorce, his voice didn't change one bit. "Come in at 2, William said. "Bring your ID and any financial documents you have." Ryan offered to come with me, but I told him I needed to handle this alone. William's office had dark wood furniture and leather chairs that made a soft sound when you sat down. He was in his mid-50s, gray hair, sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He looked like a man who'd seen it all and wasn't impressed by any of it. "Walk me through it," William said, pulling out a legal pad. I told him everything. The photo, the late nights, how long I'd suspected something was off. I showed him the picture on my phone. He studied it without expression, then nodded. "You want to move fast?" William asked. "As fast as legally possible," I said. "Any kids together?" "No. She has a son from a previous marriage, but he's 17. Not mine. Joint accounts. Yeah. Checking, savings, one credit card. What about the house?" "In my name," I said. "I owned it before we got married. Never added her to the deed." William made notes, his pen moving steadily across the paper. "That simplifies things. I'm assuming you want to go with irreconcilable differences rather than citing adultery." I thought about it. Part of me wanted to put in writing, make it official that she destroyed this marriage. But another part just wanted it over. Irreconcilable differences, I said. I don't need to drag this out. William explained the process. Filing, serving papers, mandatory waiting period, asset division. He was thorough, didn't sugarcoat anything. Before I left, he gave me some advice. You can start separating your finances now, William said. Move half the joint savings into a new account. Don't drain everything. Just protect your share. Change your passwords. Freeze any shared credit. Do it quietly. That afternoon, I opened a new account at a different bank across town. Transferred exactly half of our savings, plus my last paycheck. Changed every password I had. Set up alerts on my credit report. Piece by piece, I started dismantling the financial life we'd built together. I also filed for 2 weeks of personal time at work. I had it saved up, never took much vacation. The HR manager didn't ask questions, just processed it and told me to take care of whatever I needed to take care of. By the time Jennifer realized what was happening, I'd already be gone. And that's exactly how I wanted it. Jennifer must have walked through that door and seen the note immediately. I wasn't there to witness it, but I could picture it clear as day. The way she'd stand there in the kitchen, staring at those 5 words, and that ring sitting on the table like a period at the end of a sentence she never saw coming. Ryan told me she started calling that same night. My phone lit up over and over, her name flashing on the screen. I'd block her number before I even left the house, so she started using other numbers. Different area codes, probably borrowed phones for people at work, or those app numbers you can get online. I didn't answer a single one. Just watched the screen light up, buzz, go dark, then light up again. Like watching someone pound on a door that was already welded shut. The emails came next. Subject lines that said things like, please talk to me, and I can explain. A few were blank. Just her name in the sender field like that alone should make me open them. I deleted every one without reading past the first line. She reached out to Ryan too. He showed me the text one evening while we were sitting on his back porch. It was short, desperate. Ryan, please. I know he's with you. I need to talk to him. He's misunderstood something. I can explain. Please. I handed the phone back. Don't respond. Wasn't planning on it, Ryan said, taking a drink of his beer. She's spiraling. Good, I said. And I meant it. We're going around the office fast. I'd filed for personal time, vanished without explanation. Jennifer showed up to work every day and had to walk past my empty desk. Had to answer questions from people who noticed I was gone. Had to pretend everything was fine while her whole world was coming apart at the seams. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she looked rough. Not sleeping, barely eating, eyes red from crying. She told people I was dealing with something personal, that I'd be back soon. But deep down, she had to know better. The ring told her everything. A week after I left, Jennifer got served. William had the divorce papers delivered by courier to the house. Clean white envelope. Her name typed on the front. No return address. Just cold, legal documentation of the end. I wasn't there to see her open it, but I imagine that's when it really hit her. Not when I disappeared, not when I didn't answer her calls, but when she saw my signature at the bottom of those papers. When she realized this wasn't a fight, wasn't something she could talk her way out of. It was done. Ryan said she called him again that night, sobbing, barely coherent. He didn't pick up, just let it go to voicemail and deleted it without listening. She tried reaching out to a few of her mutual friends, spinning stories about how I'd misunderstood something, how I was being unreasonable, how she just needed a chance to explain. But most people stayed out of it. Nobody wanted to pick sides in a mess they didn't understand. Jennifer was used to controlling the narrative, used to making people believe whatever version of events she wanted them to believe. But this time, the silence spoke louder than any story she could tell. And that silence was mine. 10 days after Jennifer got the divorce papers, the eviction notice landed. William had filed it quietly, processed it through the courts, all legal and proper. Since the house was in my name, and she'd refused to leave on her own, the law gave me the right to remove her. I didn't do it to be cruel. I did it because I wasn't going to share a roof with someone who'd betrayed me. That house had memories, sure. Good ones. Sunday mornings, backyard barbecues, quiet evenings on the couch. But it also had something else now. It had the ghost of what I'd seen through those office blinds. And no amount of time was going to erase that. Ryan was with me when William called to say she'd been served. She got it, William said, his voice calm and professional. I'm guessing your phone's about to explode. He wasn't wrong. Within an hour, blocked calls started coming in. Different numbers, all her. Then a message request through an old app we'd shared years ago, something for tracking grocery lists. She was reaching through every crack she could find. I didn't respond. Not once. From what Ryan heard through the grapevine, Jennifer lost it when she saw that eviction notice. She called him in tears, her voice shaking, saying it wasn't fair, that I couldn't just throw her out, that she had nowhere to go. She said you were being heartless. Ryan told me one night over pizza. Said she didn't understand how you could do something so cruel. Heartless. That word again. The woman who'd kissed another man in his office, who'd lied to my face for God knows how long, was calling me heartless for not letting her stay in my house. Let her think whatever she wants, I said. Jennifer tried to make it difficult, talking about contesting the eviction, claiming she had rights as a spouse. William shut that down fast. The house had always been mine. The deed had my name, not hers. She'd moved into my home, not our home. Legally, she didn't have a leg to stand on. She could have fought it, dragged it through court, made it ugly. But she didn't. I think she knew there was no winning this. Not with the paperwork, not with the evidence, not with the cold, hard fact that I was done. Brandon, her son, was caught in the middle of it all. I felt bad for the kid, I really did. But he was 17, almost an adult, and he never really seen me as anything more than the guy who married his mom. I wasn't his father, never had been. So when I walked away, it wasn't like I was abandoning him. I was just no longer in the picture. Jennifer started packing within the week. I wasn't there to see it, but I imagined her going through the rooms, deciding what was hers and what was mine, trying to divide up a life that had already been divided the moment she put her lips on Stephen Carter. Ryan asked me once if I felt guilty about any of it. The eviction, the divorce, the way I just cut her off completely. No, I said, and I didn't. She'd made her choice in that office. I was just making mine. The difference was, mine had consequences she couldn't charm her way out of. I didn't send a photo to HR right away. I sat on it for a few days, thinking about whether I wanted to blow up their lives the way they'd blown up mine. Part of me wanted to just walk away clean, take the high road, let karma sort them out. But then I remembered something. Stephen Carter wasn't just Jennifer's boss. He was a leader in that company, someone people were supposed to trust. And Jennifer, she'd climbed her way up playing the game, always knowing the right things to say, the right way to smile. They both lied. Both pretended to be something they weren't while breaking the rules everyone else had to follow. So on my last day of personal time, sitting in Ryan's apartment at midnight, I drafted my resignation email. Kept it professional, thanked them for the opportunity, wished them well. Standard corporate goodbye. Then I attached the photo. I didn't write an explanation. Didn't need to. The image said everything. Jennifer on Stephen's desk, his hand on her waist, her hand on his chest, caught in a moment they thought was private. I sent it to Jenna Clark, the HR director. She'd been with TechFlow for 15 years. No nonsense, by the book. If anyone would handle it right, it was her. I hit send, closed my laptop, and leaned back. That was it. I didn't work there anymore. Didn't owe them anything. It's done. Ryan asked from across the room. Yeah, I said. It's done. The next morning, Jenna called me. Her voice was controlled, but I could hear something underneath. Surprise, maybe, or disappointment. Travis, Jenna said, I received your resignation and the attached image. I want to thank you for your years of service. The image has been received and will be reviewed according to company policy. That was all she said. That was all I needed to hear. Word spread through TechFlow like wildfire. I wasn't there to see it, but I heard about it through the grapevine. People talking in hushed voices, speculation running wild. HR called an emergency meeting, announced a formal investigation. No names mentioned, but everyone knew. A guy from my old department, Derek, texted me 3 days later. Dude, the whole building is losing their minds. Jennifer and Stephen are both on administrative leave. HR's been interviewing people all week. What the hell happened? I kept my response short. Just moved on. Time for a fresh start. By the end of the week, both Jennifer and Stephen were gone. Terminated. The official word was vague, something about violations of company policy and professional conduct. But everyone knew what it meant. Jennifer had lost her husband, her home, and now her job. All because she couldn't keep her hands off a man who wasn't hers. One surprise after another landed on her doorstep, and somehow she still didn't get it. She thought she could spin her way out, thought she could explain it all away. But there was no explaining a photograph, no talking her way around evidence that clear, and definitely no coming back from the chain reaction she'd set in motion herself. Stephen Carter, the corporate golden boy with 20 plus years at the company, walked out with a cardboard box and a reputation in ruins. His wife found out, I heard, filed for divorce within a week. His kids stopped talking to him. Everything he'd built, gone because he couldn't keep it professional. I didn't celebrate when I heard. Didn't feel satisfaction or vindication. I just felt done. Like I closed a chapter one, never wanted to read again. Ryan asked me once if I regretted sending that photo. No, I said. They made their choices. I just made sure those choices had consequences. And that was the truth. I wasn't after revenge. I was after peace. And now I had it. It was a Friday evening, about a month after I'd walked out, when I heard the knock. Ryan had gone to visit his sister in Ohio for the weekend, left me the apartment to myself. I was on the couch, watching a game, not really paying attention to the score. The knock was firm, deliberate, not angry, just determined. I knew who it was before I even opened the door. Call instinct. I stood up, walked over, and pulled the door open. There she was. Jennifer Walsh, my wife. Or ex-wife, depending on how you looked at it. The papers were filed, the waiting period almost over. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, wearing jeans and an old sweatshirt that hung loose on her frame. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying for days. Maybe she had been. Please, Jennifer said, her voice shaking. Just hear me out. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. There was a time, not that long ago, when seeing her like that would have broken me. When I would have pulled her inside, held her, told her we'd figure it out. That's who I used to be. The guy who fixed things, who forgave, who believed people deserve second chances. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, looking at her without blinking. My voice came out calm, flat, final. You made your choice, I said. Now live with it. Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, wanted to explain, wanted to say whatever she'd been rehearsing in her head for the past month. But I didn't give her the chance. I stepped back and closed the door. Not a slam, not dramatic. Just a quiet, deliberate close. The kind that says more than any words ever could. I stood there for a second, hands still on the knob, listening. I thought maybe she'd knock again, maybe yell something through the door. But she didn't. I heard her footsteps, slow and heavy, moving down the hallway. Then the sound of the stairwell door opening and closing. I walked back to the couch and sat down. Let out a long breath I didn't know I'd been holding. That was it. The last piece of her that had been hanging over me. The last thread connecting us. She tracked me down somehow. Probably hired someone, asked around, did whatever it took to find me. Jennifer had always been resourceful like that. Always found a way to get what she wanted. But this time, it didn't matter. This time, there was nothing left to get. I thought about what she must be feeling right now. Walking back to her car, replaying those 8 words over and over. Realizing that I wasn't angry anymore, wasn't hurt, wasn't anything. Just done. That's what she couldn't understand. She thought if she could just talk to me, just explain, she could make it right. She thought she could fix it the way she'd fixed everything else in her life, with the right words and the right tone and the right amount of tears. But some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals cut too deep. And some doors, once closed, don't open again. Ryan called me later that night from his sister's place. You doing okay? He asked. Yeah, I said. Jennifer showed up. I sent her away. Good, Ryan said. You don't owe her anything. I know, I said. And I did. I'd given her 7 years, given her my trust, given her a life. And she'd thrown it all away for a man who wasn't worth half of what I'd offered her. Now she was left with nothing but regrets and a closed door. And I was left with something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. 2 weeks after Jennifer showed up at Ryan's door, something unexpected happened. I got a call from Brandon, her son, my stepson, technically, though that word never quite fit. Travis, Brandon's voice said, hesitant and quiet. Can we talk? We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. He was 17 now, looked older than I remembered. Taller, sharper features, less of the kid I'd tried to connect with for 7 years. I know what happened, Brandon said once we sat down. He stirred his coffee without drinking it. Between you and my mom. I mean, I knew before. I saw them together once, like 6 months ago, at the house when you were working late. I didn't know what to do, so I just didn't say anything. The words hit me harder than I expected. This kid had carried that weight for half a year, watching his mother lie to me, knowing what she was doing. That wasn't your burden to carry, I said. You were just trying to survive in a bad situation. I should have told you, Brandon said, and his voice faltered. You were good to me. You showed up. You tried. And I was always kind of a jerk about it, because I kept waiting for you to leave like my dad did. But you didn't leave until you had to. I didn't know what to say to that. For 7 years, I'd felt like I was hitting a wall with this kid. And now, after everything fell apart, he was finally being honest. I appreciate you saying that, I told him, but you don't owe me anything. You were just a kid caught in the middle. Brandon nodded, finally took a sip of his coffee. Mom's been asking about you. I told her to leave you alone. She doesn't get it. She thinks if she explains enough, you'll understand. But I get it. What she did, there's no coming back from that. We talked for another 20 minutes. He told me he was planning to go to community college in the fall, maybe study engineering. Asked if I'd be willing to write him a recommendation letter for a scholarship. I told him I would. When we left, he shook my hand. Firm grip, looked me in the eye. Thanks for trying, he said. I know I didn't make it easy. Take care of yourself, Brandon, I said. That conversation shifted something in me. Closed the door I didn't even know was still open. Meanwhile, Ryan and I had been talking about an idea we'd kicked around since college. Starting our own consulting firm. Operations and logistics consulting for small to mid-sized companies. Nothing flashy, just good work at fair prices. We spent evenings mapping it out. Business plan, potential clients, startup costs. Ryan had some money saved. I had my severance from TechFlow and half the savings Jennifer and I had built. We pooled resources and filed the LLC paperwork. By the end of the month, Foster Reynolds Consulting was official. We worked out of Ryan's garage at first. 2 laptops on a folding table, whiteboards propped against the walls. Within 3 weeks, we had our first client, a manufacturing company in Fort Wayne that needed help streamlining their supply chain. The work was good, honest, something I'd built with my own hands and my own decisions. No office politics, no wondering who was lying to me, just clear problems with clear solutions. For the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Not the man I'd been with Jennifer, always second-guessing, always wondering if I was enough. But someone stronger, someone who knew his worth. 4 months after I walked out on Jennifer, I met Amy Davidson. It wasn't planned, wasn't something I was looking for. Just happened naturally, the way good things do when you're not forcing them. Ryan and I had taken on a client in Carmel, a floral supply company that needed help with their distribution logistics. The owner was a woman named Amy, 41 years old, with auburn hair and sharp brown eyes that didn't miss much. She ran the business herself, built it from the ground up after her divorce 3 years earlier. We met in her office to discuss the project. She was direct, asked good questions, didn't waste time. I appreciated that. By the end of the meeting, we had a plan in place. You want to grab lunch? Amy asked as we were packing up. There's a good deli down the street. We can go over the timeline. Lunch turned into 2 hours of conversation. We talked about work at first, then life, then the messy parts of life neither of us had planned on. She'd been through her own betrayal, her ex-husband cheating with someone from their church group. She understood what it felt like to have trust shattered. The hardest part, Amy said, wasn't the anger. It was realizing I'd wasted years on someone who didn't value what we had. Yeah, I said. That's exactly it. We started seeing each other after that. Coffee dates, walks along the Monin Trail, dinners at places neither of us had been before. She had a black lab named Duke who tried to eat everything in sight and made me laugh every time I came over. Amy was real. No games, no pretense. Just steady, honest, present. She listened when I talked about Jennifer, about the betrayal, about how it had changed me. She didn't judge, didn't try to fix it, just listened. You're different than you think you are, Amy told me one evening as we sat on her back porch watching Duke chase fireflies. You think you're broken, but you're not. You're just careful now, and that's not a bad thing. Maybe she was right. Maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I was just rebuilt into something stronger. The divorce from Jennifer finalized in early September. The papers came in the mail, official and final. I signed them, sent them back, And that was it. 7 years. Reduced to a legal document and a file number. I didn't feel sad about it. Didn't feel much of anything except relief. It was done. She was someone else's problem now. Or more likely, her own problem. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved out of state, trying to start fresh somewhere. Nobody knew her story. Brandon texted me once to say she'd gone to North Carolina, found work at a small firm doing administrative stuff. He said she seemed lost, like she was still trying to figure out what went wrong. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Foster Reynolds Consulting grew steadily. By the end of the year, we'd moved into a real office space, hired our first employee, and had a client list that kept us busy 6 days a week. Ryan and I made a good team. He handled client relations. I managed the technical side. It worked. 9 months after everything fell apart, I was sitting in Amy's living room, Duke's head on my lap, watching a movie I wasn't really paying attention to. Amy was curled up beside me, her hand in mine, comfortable and easy. You know what's funny? I said. What? Amy asked. A year ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Good job, decent marriage, stable life. And it all turned out to be built on lies. And now? Amy asked. Now I've got something real. I said. Something I built myself. Something nobody can take away. She smiled and squeezed my hand. That's all any of us can ask for. She was right. I'd lost a job, a wife, and a life I thought was solid. But I gained something better. Clarity, strength, freedom, and someone who saw me for who I really was and didn't need me to be anything else. Jennifer had thrown away a good man for a few stolen moments. Her loss, my gain, and I wasn't looking back anymore.